Everybody, and thank you for being here. I am joined by our public safety team, where we just concluded a meeting talking about public safety issues across the District of Columbia. And although violent crime in D.C. remains flat in this calendar year, we have an unacceptable spike in homicides this year. This unfortunate increase in murders is consistent with what cities across the nation are experiencing. We are doing everything that we can to prevent violent crime in every part of the city. We respond swiftly when it happens, and we are focused on holding criminals accountable. On this past Monday, I convened a CAPSTAT meeting to talk with members of our public safety team to review crime statistics, identify trends, and also to review our tactics. We invited our federal partners to that discussion as well. And on Tuesday, I also attended with the chief and our partners a GunStat meeting, a long-standing initiative to focus our energies on 50 gun offenders across the District of Columbia. So we are using every tool at our disposal to address violent crime. And it's also important that we report to the members of the public the progress that the police department has made in making arrests and closing these cases, and also to highlight the role that our partners will play in making sure that anybody that commits a crime meets justice in the District of Columbia. That is a plea that I've made to our prosecutors, and that is a plea that I will make to our judges. So I want to highlight today 4 closures. Yesterday, we arrested Martin Flythe on charges of first-degree murder while armed for the August 1st death of a 23-year-old in the District of Columbia. Just a couple of days ago, on August 10th, we made 2 arrests. We arrested a 17-year-old juvenile male for negligent manslaughter for the death of a 3-year-old in the District of Columbia. We arrested Aaron McDuffie for first-degree murder while armed for the July 24th shooting and killing of a 23-year-old Antonio McAllister in the District of Columbia. And on August 1st, we arrested Tyree Morgan on charges of second-degree second-degree murder while armed for the July 22nd stabbing and killing of 22-year-old Antoine Jackson in the District of Columbia. We experienced over a period of, 9 days that we're talking about from the 21st to August, from the 24th to August 1, a number of homicides in our district. And the chief and the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department have worked diligently to come to closure on 4 of those cases, and a number of them are in significant progress towards closure as well. I wanted also to take a moment to highlight some open cases where we continue to need the public's help in ensuring justice for people who have been killed in the District of Columbia. You will see some posters in front of you that highlight a few of the people wanted in the district. There is a poster with the photo of 21-year-old Darnell Cruz. Darnell Cruz is wanted for first-degree murder while armed for the shooting death of a 23-year-old on August 13th in Northeast Washington. Another poster shows 3 men who have not been identified who are wanted for the July 27th stabbing and killing of a 31-year-old on East Street in Washington. We have a poster of Sean Simmons. Sean Simmons was a victim, shot and killed on the 1300 block of Savannah Street in Southeast on August 1st at 4 in the morning. Sean Simmons' killer is at large. In fact, most of the posters in front of me, we need show victims, and we need the community's help in finding the people responsible. We ask that the community call us with an anonymous message at the text tip line, which is 50411. If you see something, even if you think it's insignificant, it may be helpful to our investigators. I'll also remind the public that the district offers a $25,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of a homicide victim in the District of Columbia. So with that, we will take any questions that you have.
Mayor Stephen Tuda, ABC 7. Quick question. You're citing these closures, but along with the spike in homicides, we've also witnessed a rather dramatic drop in closures. A couple of weeks ago, below 40%. Can you correlate this?
Sure. Well, I'm going to have the chief speak to the specific numbers and also to the progress throughout the year of how we'll get to closures.
Yeah, that's not correct. It's not below 40%. Our closure rate is captured, the UCR closure rate, because of the time that it takes to close a homicide case. It's unlike most cases, unless the exemption would be in cases where the suspect is known. So in domestic violence cases, typically those close very quickly. But most homicides occur, out on public space when there's not a bunch of people watching, or we don't have eyewitnesses or video. So then there's a lot of other work that has to be done. Obviously, before we charge somebody with a homicide, our forensic evidence has to be analyzed. I mean, these things don't happen overnight. So analysis of firearms, stuff that we recover, analysis of DNA and fingerprints takes a little time. So a lot of times we have a suspect identified very quickly, but to bring the actual arrest takes more time. So the homicide closure rate as of today is, I think, at 54 or 55%. But it will continue to go up over the course of time as we move through the remainder of the year. These cases were all closed fairly quickly, given the fact that we started these cases with multiple gunshots in the middle of the night in a public housing complex, and we couldn't close these cases that quickly without cooperation from our communities. And I think it's significant to note that for us to close these cases, in particular 3 of these cases are east of the river, says that people in our community are tired of this, and they don't want these shootings to continue, and they're going to help us find the people responsible. So I would just caution you on judging, the time with which it takes us to close these cases, knowing what's involved in closure.
In 2011, wasn't it about 95% the closure rate? I mean, is there more hesitance then to cooperate? Witnesses to come forward to give you information?
Well, in 2011, our homicide closure rate was 95%, but of that remember, this is a UCR closure rate, so it includes cold cases that are closed during that year as well. I believe we had 18 cold cases that we closed that year. So that's one of the things that has, had impacts on homicide closure rates. Right now, we're still, in the last 5 years, our average closure rate is 20% above the national average. We're averaging in the last 5 years a 77% closure rate. The national average is 57%. So I think, our closure rate is not suffering. It just, you're looking at it at a point in time today, and it will change tomorrow, and it will change the next day. It's just the way it works.
Mayor,
Tom.
For the last several weeks, you have said, and your administration has talked about the spike in crime and what you're doing, and the chief has responded, doing a variety of things. You've met today for over an hour. Was there anything new out of today's meeting that we should know about what the police might be doing? Are there going to be any all hands on decks? Are there going to be some changes in staffing? Is there anything new out of the meeting today?
Well, the chief continues to review deployment strategies, and over the last several weeks, you're quite right. We're looking at it from preventative measures from a human services standpoint, and we'll continue to have that discussion today as well. We're looking at the infrastructure in our neighborhoods, lighting and cameras, and we have pushed forward working in partnership with the Public Housing Authority to implement more lighting and cameras around housing communities throughout the District of Columbia. We've examined what legislative changes that we might suggest to the council when the council comes comes in as well, and we'll continue to push down on that. But we've also been focused on making sure the system works as it should. So the police make the arrest, and we are following very closely in making sure that when people are arrested, that they're held if that's what the circumstances and the law allows. And we want to make sure that they're being held. We want to make sure that the charges match the crime. We've also asked our prosecutors, especially where we know that we have really hot situations and that relate to our gun stack process, that we're not pleading out where, the crime suggests that the full extent of the law should be applied. This is a conversation that we also want to have with our judges. So our police make the arrest, there are the appropriate holds being made, that there are appropriate charges being applied, but then also that the judges follow through with what the community wants, and that's safe neighborhoods.
Is there a tension between you, the police department, and the judge and the prosecutors? Or is
We
this
are all working hand in hand. I think everybody understands, each agency understands its role, and we are working hand in hand to get that done. I should say also our agencies, the chief has asked that we also step up, and we have a new director at our Department of Forensic Sciences, and we've asked that we're turning around evidence as it relates to homicides faster. Yes.
Question for the Chief, Abigail Houselander from the Washington Post. Chief, you talked about there being more guns on the street as one of the factors potentially involved in this violence, and you've talked about there being higher caliber bullets also at work. Do you have any working theories for why that might be, the more guns and the bullets?
I'll give you some statistics that might help answer your question. From the Violent Crime Summit that we had with the local chiefs from around the country just a couple of weeks ago, we all noted the same commonalities, high-capacity magazines, multiple rounds being fired from multiple guns. So a huge influx not only in guns in our major cities, but a huge influx in these high-capacity magazines that we have not previously seen. And so when you look at statistics, the police department is really the one part of the system that has a lot of statistics. But if you look at what we talked about at the summit that is common here in D.C. and common in all cities, so far this year, 10 of the people involved in homicide have had prior homicide charges. 10. That's significant, and it's different than anything we've seen before. We have multiple scenes where there is 40, 50 rounds fired because of these high-capacity magazines. So our lowest year on record for homicide in the last 60 years was in 2012. We had 88 homicides. Our violent crime today is 11% lower than that year. The only offense in the violent crime that is up is homicide. So if you take that in conjunction with the factors that stand out the most from statistics, multiple of our offenders involved in the homicide have previous homicides and are recently back in the community. Multiple of our cases have high-capacity magazines and multiple rounds fired, making the shots fired much more lethal. So violent crime down 11%, but homicides up by 20 this year. You have to kind of look at all the data to figure what's driving that one number, which is the homicides, and then how do we go after getting that number down?
But why are there more guns and high-caliber bullets on the streets?
We wish we knew, but every city is seeing a flood of these high-capacity magazines. So there's been a number of changes in gun laws in states all across the United States in the past several years, a number of pushes to purchase these high-capacity magazines for fear that they may not be legally available sometime in the future. And is it possible that now maybe some of those are making their way to the major cities? We don't know, but for some reason, they are showing up in every city.
A few more questions. All 10 of the people involved in homicides who were previously charged, were they all 10 just let out of jail recently?
I can't give you the exact time, but that's a pretty significant statistic. What we're seeing is violent offenders that are committing shootings and homicides that have multiple prior violent offenses. So I think the mayor's comments about you can't just look at data from what the police department collects. We've got to look at the whole system. If there's a failure somewhere, we've got to identify what it is and address it.
Yes.
How many of these 10 people that had previous homicide charges, how many were these crimes committed as juveniles? Do you have any sense?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay.
Chief, I just wanted to follow up on Tom's question. Is there frustration, do you have frustration when it comes to the judges and the sentencing here? The mayor kind of talked about it a little bit. I wonder what you're thinking about that. Do you get frustrated that people get out on the street just too quickly?
Well, I don't have the data to say exactly what happens. If I make 800 arrests for armed robbery, I can't tell you of those 800 arrests what sentences those 800 arrests resulted in for different individuals. So I don't know enough data to say that anyone's part of the system is to blame. I will tell you that I get a lot of calls from people in the community that are frustrated when a person is arrested and then back in the community. So there's just not enough data for us to have that analysis to say what's happening when violent offenders are arrested or when violent offenders are being released, what impact that's having.
We are. I would just add to that, Matt, that we have asked one of our organizations, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, to help us with some of that data collection for the current year. And we will identify the population to follow to make sure we understand the experience that we have from crime to arrest to charges to sentencing. And we will also ask the CJCC to help us with some release information. Tom also asked about some things that were new. We identified some weeks ago the problem with testing for synthetic drugs, and we were pleased to say that the pretrial services division is able now and are implementing a test for synthetic drugs. Our protocol from our health department is also being implemented at area hospitals. Kevin, is there anything that you want to add to? Okay. Yes, I'll take these two here. Yes, sir.
Josh Patrick, the Daily Caller News Foundation. You mentioned some legislative changes that you guys were discussing. Could you give us any more details about that?
Well, we're still chewing on them, so I don't. It would be premature for me to talk about them. So we just want to make sure, first of all, that our officers have the protections that they need. That also the public is very clear on the rules that they have to follow as well. I will mention one thing that I've asked Kevin Donahue to look into, and that's to make sure, for example, that the penalties for any crimes committed on public transit are robust, and that's one thing that we're looking into. Yes.
Andrew Mullenbeck from WTOP. Chief, could you characterize a little bit about how community relations are going? I know oftentimes you say one of the most important things in closing a crime is to be able to have those witnesses come forward. How much feedback are you getting from the community in some of these homicides?
Well, that's one of the reasons I wanted to highlight the closures from today, because I don't think people realize that the people in our community are tired of the violence. They are willing to come forward in one way or another to get us the information that we need, and that's the only reason we're standing here talking about these closures. We can't do it without the public's assistance. Most of our homicides occur, isolated areas or late at night, or where there's not, a camera trained right on the spot, and without witnesses coming forward or providing information to us, we can't close these cases. So I think it's significant to say that 3 of the cases that we talked about today are cases east of the river, where people have always said, well, you have a difficult time closing cases east of the river. People east of the river are tired of the violence. They are tired of it. And we are going to be there to make sure that we do everything we can to get those people that they identify off the street.
I was wondering, in 3D, where there was that triple shooting near the Kennedy Recreation Center, there's a noticeable increase in foot patrols. There's a kind of almost like a lemonade stand where they're staying there 24 hours. Are there other neighborhoods where you guys are doing something similar to that?
The lemonade stand, the calls I get for the lemonade stand. So each patrol district has one of those tents. So we use them for community outreach events. So we usually hand out crime prevention literature. And the situation where that commander decided to put that tent up and have the crime prevention literature is that it's right next to a rec center. And so it is a appropriate place to have the tent up. The influx of personnel in Woodland Terrace is about tenfold from what you see in that one person at the lemonade stand in Northwest. So different strategies for what might work, next to a rec center, and what might work in the courtyards of Woodland Terrace are two different things. What we needed in Woodland Terrace is some lighting and some different kind of presence. What we needed next to this rec center, because we've had some recent violence there, is somebody there that's visible with this community tent that's handing out literature.
Can you outline some of the things you're doing in those neighborhoods that do traditionally have a higher crime rate, whether it's some of the housing over near, I know there's a neighborhood around 1300 block of First Street where there was a murder a month or so ago, and they say that area has a lot of high crime. Can you talk about some of the strategies you use in neighborhoods like that?
So it depends on what the crime issue is. If the crime issue, and each neighborhood is very different, and this is some of the information that we get back from the community. So it depends on what the crime issue is. If it is violence between rival gangs, then we work on targeting people. That is specifically, we got to go after the guns in the hands of the people that we know are going to use them. If it is a burglary issue or some other type of issue, then we use a different strategy that, may be a little different type of visibility and a little bit different type of patrol tactic that we use. So it really just depends on what the issue is, and not all violence is driven by the same thing. Sometimes, and some of the violence we've seen recently has been just dispute resolution with a gun. It's that simple. And so the way we have to go after that is go after these guns and these high-capacity magazines. And so we are full tilt on that. And the number of guns recovered this year and last year are both up. So we are recovering a lot of guns.
I'm going to ask the chief to just mention another strategy that she's used with the new unit, who is monitoring social media and monitoring informants and monitoring various networks. There's been significant violence in one of our Ward 8 communities in Congress Park. In this unit, because of the intelligence that they gathered, were able to go into a vacant building that was being used basically as a stash house. So I'm going to ask the chief to talk about that strategy, which is a higher level strategy, which the public may not see, but it is happening, which talks about, it also implicates another one of our agencies and strategies that we're using, identifying any vacant property in neighborhoods where we've seen high crime and making sure that they're secure. Chief?
So we talked about with the implementation of the citywide narcotics enforcement unit and the CIU, the criminal intelligence unit. We have to work smarter and not harder because crime and drug dealing and all those things have changed. The criminal element has changed. So those units are all housed together now. The criminal intelligence, or CIU, along with the narcotics enforcement unit and the gun unit. They're working together through a variety of different means that they were recently trained on, and they were able to track down a vacant property over in the area where we have a lot of violence that allowed them to seize cocaine, PCP, marijuana that was all being prepared for sale, so pretty significant quantities, and 6 firearms. So it is about different type of policing and smarter policing to try and go at the source of the problems. That is not very visible to the community, but it's very visible to us in terms of impact.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.